Hi, if you're just joining us now, we're just going to give it a minute to let folks join, and then we'll start in a few minutes, or less than a minute. All right. Thank you so much for everybody joining us today. My name is Matt Mahoney, the Director of Government Affairs with Sustainable Pittsburgh. And thank you for joining us today for our Sustainable Community Development Network Policy Connection on clean energy opportunities for local governments. Here at Sustainable Pittsburgh, our mission is to empower decision-making that builds fundamentally equitable, resilient, healthy, and a prosperous region with a vision for a thriving region where stakeholders are connected, sustainability knowledge is shared and applied, and all people can succeed. We're optimistic, having worked with nearly 1,000 businesses, communities, and organizations to take action using our customized frameworks to track progress and simultaneously advance social equity, environmental stewardship, and prosperity. And the strategic networks we host leverage the collective expertise and diverse perspectives within our region to ensure our communities can meet our challenges today and thrive into the future. So some of the work that we do, what is it that Sustainable Pittsburgh does? Well, our team of subject matter experts has designed and manages a set of designation programs that offer recognition for organizations to measure their sustainability achievements and frameworks to understand and track that progress. And these programs are open for restaurants, small businesses, municipalities, and a wide variety of other workplaces. In addition, we host strategic networks to promote leadership, peer-to-peer learning, and target action on sustainability topics. We also recognize that immersion issues that present challenges and our broad scope of expertise and relationships have enabled us to elevate urgent issues to encourage action and promote education on those topics. The recognition programs that we run with Sustainable Pittsburgh oversees these 4 sustainability recognition programs, each tailored to a specific sector. The shops program, open for retail shops with 50 employees or less. The restaurant program for food establishments with a kitchen. Workplace program for all types of businesses and organizations, small, large businesses, nonprofits, and institutions such as universities. And then finally, our Sustainable Pennsylvania program for municipalities across the Commonwealth. And each of these programs offers questionnaires on current sustainability performance, so folks can learn and take steps to in areas like carbon reduction, employee hiring and retention, supplier engagement, and materiality. The questionnaires not only allow you to assess the current sustainability performance, but also provide step-by-step guidance to improve performance. And for each of those indicators, you accumulate points that add up to either bronze, silver, gold, or platinum sustainability designations. And currently we have nearly 400 businesses, organizations, and municipalities participating in our programs. We also run our CEOs for Sustainability program, which helps co-create a fundamentally equitable, resilient, healthy, and prosperous Southwest PA. CEOs for Sustainability is an outcomes-based network for invited C-suite leaders of well-aligned companies to share best practices and collaborate in growing ranks of those that enjoy the benefits of that triple bottom line for people, planet, and profits. And CEOs for Sustainability is led by executives of companies representing more than $150 billion in total revenue with over 300,000 employees. And we believe this is the only group in the nation where CEOs are providing this thought leadership around business sustainability. And an emergent issue, as we had discussed, the emergent issues that we're working on is decarbonization, or a multi-sector, equity-centered decarbonization strategy. Decarbonization, which is the reduction of carbon emissions from human systems and activities. Sustainable Pittsburgh has been gathering feedback from regional stakeholders, about 200, that have helped identify key priorities and immediate next steps that we can take to advance a comprehensive, equity-driven, multi-sector decarbonization strategy. If you'd like to learn more about that, please get in touch with us. And of course, we convene our Sustainable Community Development Network, which aims to bring experienced professionals together to increase their understanding and capacity for sustainable development practices and continue hosting sustainable development educational activities just like today's webinar. So happy that you are all joining us today. For our agenda today, we're going to review clean energy funding opportunities, as the title of our program indicates. We'll dive into some of the recent legislation as well as some resources that local governments specifically can use for in their clean energy journey. Since we're focusing on clean energy opportunities for local governments, we wanted to invite guest speakers to discuss some of the on-the-ground practical tools that local governments can use. And we're thrilled to be joined by the Pennsylvania Solar Center to discuss their Get Solar program, as well as the Great Plains Institute to discuss the SolSmart program, which is a designation program that offers technical assistance for solar planning, community engagement, and market development. And we'll have time for Q&A and discussion at the end. And I encourage everybody, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll get to them as soon as we can. But before we get into the discussion, I'm going to pass the mic to my colleague, Sarah, who's going to provide a quick overview of our Sustainable Pennsylvania program for our municipal and other stakeholders on today's webinar. Over the past few years, our team has worked hard to update our certification program, including our Sustainable Pennsylvania program. And while we have you, we want to provide a quick overview of that program and the topics covered. So, Sarah, I will pass it on to you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you. So as Matt mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Sustainable Pennsylvania. We can move to the next slide. So the Pennsylvania Municipal League and Sustainable Pittsburgh have been working together since 2013 to help Pennsylvania municipalities realize the benefits of sustainability. And together we offer the Sustainable Pennsylvania Certification Program, which we simply often refer to as Sustainable Pennsylvania. Next slide. So before diving into more detail on the program, let's just touch quickly on why a program like this matters for municipalities. So sustainability helps local leaders create value for their communities, both today and into the future. And our program works both on the level of municipal operations and also on the level of community development. So as an organization or as a workplace, your municipality can realize benefits from sustainability, like increased ability to attract and engage employees, cost savings due to efficiency improvements, and improved financial performance, like saving taxpayer money. And then in terms of community development and planning, sustainable development can help your community do things like attract residents and businesses, improve public health, manage crises like floods. Local leaders have a really profound role to play in protecting and enhancing quality of life and access to opportunity in Pennsylvania communities. And planning for sustainability is something that's really fundamental for achieving that. We can go to the next slide. So the Sustainable Pennsylvania program in particular also offers some specific benefits too. So first, the program's questionnaire that Matt mentioned can help you baseline your municipality's current sustainability performance. And then also to help you further advance your progress, the program offers resources, tools, and best practices that can help you take next steps. Second, getting certified helps your community be recognized as a leader in sustainability and offers many promotional and marketing opportunities. So when you get designated or certified rather, you will receive a promotional kit along with your certification that includes a badge that you can put on your website, on things like job postings, reports, or other uses. It also includes a guide to promoting your designation via social media, a press release template, and other resources. Sustainable Pittsburgh also promotes certified communities through the Sustainable Pennsylvania website and also on our own channels. And then last but not least, participation in this program can help you resource your sustainable development initiatives as well. Since 2016, Pennsylvania's Department of Community and Economic Development has asked all municipal governments seeking funding from them to indicate what level they have achieved in this certification program. Next slide. So as you can see here, the program asks about a really comprehensive set of sustainability topics. And within each of those topics, of course, there's different questions, and the answers to those questions progress from the very first steps that you can take on a given action all the way to more advanced actions that you can take in that particular area. And so collectively, that helps just provide some step-by-step guidance for how your community can advance its performance in each of these topic areas that you see here. We can go forward. And there are 4 steps to getting certified. So first, you need to create an account on our online program portal, super easy and quick to do that. Second, you answer all of the questions in the program, starting with a few of what we call on-ramp questions. On-ramp questions just help tailor and filter relevant questions throughout the program to your municipality. So you'll only see the questions that make the most sense or the most relevant for your community. You can work with a team of colleagues in your organization to help you do this. Third, after you complete your assessment and then you submit it to us, our staff will provide feedback on your responses, and you'll have a chance to address that before submitting your final answers. And all of this occurs within that online platform with automatic emails alerting you when activity has occurred. And then last, at the end, you'll receive a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum certification level based on 2 things. So the first of those is the total percentage of points that you have earned in the program. And the second is whether you've completed some certain actions that are required for each level of designation. Moving on. There's no deadline for participating in the program, so you can just earn your certification at your own pace. And that's important to us because the process of working together to find the information that you need to answer the program questions is actually something that municipalities often tell us is part of the value of the program. Once you're certified, the certification lasts for 3 years, but you don't need to wait for your certification to expire before you look to seek a new one. You can log back into your account at any time and view your saved answers and update whichever ones you would like to help you seek a higher certification level. And what's nice is that after your first submission, where you answer all of the questions in the program, you won't have to re-answer every question every single time you resubmit the program. So it gets more and more efficient as you go through and seek higher levels. So you can get started by making an account on our system. Visit sustainablepennsylvania.org, sustainable PA, and click login/start certification at the top right of the page. And our staff, is very happy to meet with anyone who's interested in learning more. But for now, I'll pass it back to Matt.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Very fantastic overview. And for those of us that are in the sustainable or interested in learning more about Sustainable PA, I just really encourage everybody to reach out to any of us here at Sustainable Pittsburgh, and we'll help connect you with the right folks. We also wanted to just take this opportunity to let everybody know about the upcoming Sustainable PA annual conference. So no registration available right now, but mark your calendars for November 1st through the 3rd for an event that will be focused on promoting sustainable practices. And this year's theme is quite timely, is helping local communities reach their energy emission reduction goals, which lines up with the opportunities we'll be discussing here today. So save the date and stay tuned for any further updates with regards to the conference coming up. So that being said, let's move into the content of today's webinar, the policy connection for clean energy opportunities for local governments, to review some of the tools local governments now have to fund clean energy projects. So jumping right in to some of the timely policies. So over the past 3 years for local governments and many other stakeholders, we've really witnessed a truly game-changing amount of legislation and types of legislation passed out of the federal government over the past 3 years. And each of these opportunities includes each of these pieces of legislation include meaningful opportunities for local governments to advance clean energy in their communities. And I'll start with the American Rescue Plan Act, which I know we're kind of up against the clock. The clock is ticking for local governments and governments to finalize their allocations, but the American Rescue Plan Act, which provides funding to address public health, advance economic stabilization, and other local recovery needs incurred due to COVID-19. This one-time infusion of funds is intended to relieve and uplift those most impacted by COVID-19, including households, small businesses, and local governments. So there is time to develop and implement programs specifically focused on building high-quality pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs. So going back to advancing economic stabilization, local governments, state governments, county governments have models that have developed clean energy sector specific apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs in partnership, of course, with businesses, industry associations, unions, education and training providers, community-based organizations like Sustainable Pittsburgh. So this might be a lot for one municipality to consider, but a multi-jurisdictional regional approach could improve capacity and opportunities for partnership. So recognizing the first part of energy ecosystem being that workforce. And the American Rescue Plan Act does provide some opportunity to advance clean energy apprenticeships and workforce training within that space. However, the next piece of legislation, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, provides a lot more specifically funds for advancing clean energy infrastructure and clean energy jobs here in Pennsylvania. So in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Energy Programs Office, which is housed within the Department of Environmental Protection, will be receiving $67 million as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that will focus specifically on local government energy efficiency and renewable energy programs. So the Energy Programs Office will receive these funds and will make grant programs available for local governments to advance renewable energy efficiency programs. I just was in a meeting with the Department of Environmental Protection recently and know that they're working very diligently on developing those programs and have outlined what their priorities are, focusing on clean energy for local governments, as well as addressing disadvantaged communities and ensuring that resources are driven towards environmental justice communities as well. There are other funds and other programs for those that may not have a project on in the planning stage or beyond the planning stage. For those that may not have projects in the queue, the Pennsylvania's Energy Program Office, again, will be receiving $14 million to implement programs for policy planning, education initiatives, all focused on addressing energy efficiency, renewable energy, energy security, and resilience planning to help local governments in their pursuit of clean energy development. Another $4.7 million will be allocated to that same office to support small local governments with grants, rebates, and financing for renewable energy, energy efficiency, and zero emission transportation. And so that was a lot of different programs. I highly encourage everybody to take a close look at the Energy Programs Office at the Department of Environmental Protection here in Pennsylvania, where we will see programs start to roll out as the state applies for and receives allocations from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So I would take a close look at the Energy Programs Office, as well as the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority, PEDA, is another program to look at the state. Now, shifting from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to the Inflation Reduction Act, which provides a profound amount of resources, specifically opening up new opportunities for local governments. So under the Inflation Reduction Act, nearly any renewable energy project constructed by a local government is eligible for some kind of federal cash subsidy. And it's important to note that we know that local governments are not taxpayers and normally don't benefit from tax credits. And the Inflation Reduction Act includes a lot of tax credits, but the Inflation Reduction Act also authorizes a new mechanism called direct pay for tax credits for local governments to receive those tax credits in the form of a refund, essentially, for local governments to fund energy-related assets. Now, counties, townships, municipalities, and school districts can build long-term clean energy projects like solar fields, geothermal heating, clean fuel buses, or for vehicle fleets, all with federal support. And this isn't to mention that new local government buildings can be constructed more cheaply with Inflation Reduction Act authorized incentives, making tax credits available for an unlimited number of energy-related projects. So there's not a cap on the amount of funding that's available. There are credits that now local governments can apply for and receive, similar to how in the private sector, private property owners or private investors could only access these tax credits. Now tax-exempt entities, including local governments, can access these benefits. And so honing in just a little bit more on that direct pay option in lieu of tax credits, which is a big game changer for these tax credits. These tax credits are the investment tax credit and the production tax credit historically are the primary incentive models that the federal government has advanced to encourage development of clean energy technologies. And so these clean energy incentives are now available for local governments. So with access to tax credits for clean energy projects via this direct payment option in lieu of the tax credits. This is for projects or for projects that are installed within the tax years starting after December 31st, 2022. So now, so if projects are starting now, and ending before January 1, 2033. So if construction ends before 2033. So that's 10 years that we have where we have certainty in these direct pay options for local governments. And you can claim, and as a local governments can claim that refund for the basically excess taxes they paid, making the applicable tax credits refundable. So essentially local governments are receiving a refund from the local government or from the federal government for installing clean energy assets. So the amount of the credit is paid to the local government when they make an election to receive that credit on a tax filing on that year, on the applicable year. So there are two ways that the direct payments can be used for local governments. First, for clean commercial vehicles, there is a new section 45W for our tax policy wonks out there. But section 45W provides a direct pay credit that is available for local governments up to 30% of the cost of qualified commercial clean vehicles placed in service before 2033. So again, 10 years out, 2033. There is a limit of $7,500 for vehicles with a gross weight of less than 14,000 pounds and $40,000 limit for vehicles at or above that 14,000 pound weight. Local governments can utilize the direct payment or direct pay tax credit when they purchase a qualifying commercial vehicle, place it into service and file their return, and then receive that payment of up to 30% for their purchase. For larger commercial vehicles that a municipality may purchase, like a fire engine, that larger direct pay tax credit applies to reduce the cost of those purchases to make a faster change from gas to electric vehicles. For renewable energy, that direct pay option applies to, again, the production tax credit and the investment tax credit, which are both the primary credits used to help finance renewable energy projects. So local governments with a municipal utility that finances clean energy projects, such as a solar array, can get up to 100% that with 100% tax exempt debt will be eligible for that direct pay option in lieu of tax credits. However, the IRA stipulates that if a project is financed 100% with tax exempt debt, the direct pay amount to the municipality will be reduced by 15%. So either way, there are tremendous amounts of opportunity for accessing those benefits and reducing the capital costs of these assets. So through that direct pay provision in the Inflation Reduction Act, local governments now have many incentives to invest in clean energy, and whether through the installation of clean energy systems on government-owned property or purchasing qualified commercial vehicles for government functions, this direct pay option in lieu of tax credits really holds a lot of potential. For those that are looking for resources and in the various stages of their exploration of opportunities for clean energy for local governments, there are many resources to meet you where you are in your on your journey towards a clean energy, incorporating clean energy into your government operations. So for those that already have incorporated clean energy into their comprehensive or their long-term plans, these federal resources can be activated quickly. Will require some administrative analysis, likely contractor support to take action. But for those that are earlier in their exploration of these opportunities, for energy efficiency, renewable energy, clean transportation, there are many tools available. So for one, the EPA's State and Local Climate and Energy Program offers free tools, and there's a link there at the bottom of the this slide that shows where to sort of look. It's a repository of various tools that are available for local governments, specifically on data and technical expertise for energy strategies, energy efficiency and renewable energy planning. What are some of the emerging technologies that are available? This is all to help local governments achieve their environmental, energy, and economic objectives. Moving on, there's another tool, the EPA Local Action Framework, which helps local governments plan. So if you're in the planning phases and looking to implement energy and sustainability projects, this tool helps in the evaluation of opportunity. There's also the benefits of energy efficiency and renewable energy guidebook for local governments to identify and quantify the energy, environmental, and economic benefits of clean energy. This is essentially to ensure that when communicating the benefits or in demonstrating what those impacts would be, this tool will help frame those intentions and help communicate with constituents and the public about what those benefits are. There's also the street and parking facility lighting retrofit. So if you have street lights and you're looking for support on analyzing what are the financial tools that may be available, this street and parking facility lighting retrofit and financial analysis tool will help local governments that are seeking to upgrade their street and parking facility lights with more efficient alternatives. Another tool, state and local planning for energy platform, which is an easy to access online platform to support data-driven local energy and decarbonization planning. And then those with more specific needs in their clean energy, on their clean energy pathway, the Clean Energy to Communities program, which is currently not available but will be made available soon, provides communities with expertise and tools to achieve their clean energy goals. This is a program that's funded through the Department of Energy and managed by the National Renewable Energy Lab, and connects local governments, electric utilities, community-based organizations with the national laboratory experts to basically develop customized analyses of local governments to achieve clean energy systems that are reflective of local and regional priorities. So these tools are all available and accessible at that link. You might have to do a little bit of digging, but this is the best link that I could find that could help you navigate, help local governments navigate to any of these, plus dozens of other tools that will help meet local governments where they are on their clean energy journey. And then, oops, didn't mean to get that far. And last, I'll just end with a quick overview of the Justice 40 initiative. Now, a decade of growth has been made certain with these pieces of legislation. So a decade of growth in the clean energy sector is likely certain within the clean energy sector. And these bills will be rolling out for several years. So some of these programs are available now, but there are other grants and programs that I didn't even cover because they're not quite available yet, but they will be. And so there will be growing need over the years and growing interest and sophistication within the various sectors that are implementing clean energy strategies. What we don't know is how these opportunities will be leveraged and if they'll create a new engine of economic power that is inclusive and harnessed to correct historic inequities in wealth building and opportunity. So things that we at Sustainable Pittsburgh are asking ourselves is, how are we going to measure and account for who benefits from these investments? And the Justice 40 initiative offers that framework that aligns with these new federal programs across government agencies on programs related to climate, environment, clean energy, clean transportation, housing, and water infrastructure. So we're looking at that Justice 40 ecosystem in southwestern Pennsylvania and looking through a multi-sector lens to find those components of that ecosystem, including local governments, to build stronger connections to ensure that we're reaching the goal of what Justice 40 is, which is to ensure that at least 40%, not the maximum of 40%, but at least 40% of the benefits of these programs are reaching disadvantaged communities, that they're actually benefiting disadvantaged communities. So there are plenty of intersectional connections and frameworks that bring folks together, employer networks, and like what we do at Sustainable Pittsburgh, to ensure that these investments enable equitable outcomes and not just opportunities. And we're looking for commitments to advance that mission to help us get there. So with that being said, let's dive into, or let's hear from our subject matter experts to talk more about what are some of the ground level readily used programs that are available for local governments. And we're going to introduce Leo Kowalski, who is a consulting program manager for the Pennsylvania Solar Center, administering a variety of programs, including designing solar decommissioning procedures, coordinating educational research or outreach, and leading the Galvanizing Our Energy Transition Solar Initiative, Get Solar. Leo spent nearly a decade working his way through the renewable energy industry with quite literal dirty work for processing used vegetable oil into used automotive oil, and to operating the National Business Development Manager for national renewable energy retailer Green Mountain Energy. So very excited to have Leo join us and share his expertise, and I'll pass it on to Leo to take it from here. Thanks, Leo.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the introduction, Matt. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about Solar Center and the Get Solar program. For those folks that are not familiar with the PA Solar Center. We're a statewide resource nonprofit dedicated to helping every Pennsylvanian get ushered into the clean energy economy in the future. We do that through 3 vectors. And Matt, you can move the slide forward, please. Well, yeah, there we go. So our 3 vectors are educate, advocate, and transform. We really want to try to cover a lot of ground in the solar world because there aren't organizations across the state really providing these resources. So we do work in the educational space, helping policymakers understand that there are opportunities to enhance the economy, to improve the environment, and to provide access to their residents by invigorating better solar policy and facilitating easier transition to solar within their community. We also provide a lot of resources on our website and through our various outreach tools, webinars, solar developer directory, landowner guide, to provide those various stakeholders the resources they need to just sort of passively get what they need to do, get what they need to get going into the solar queue. And then the walking the walk, the transform aspect, and that's really what I'm going to talk about today. That's our Get Solar program. Get Solar is our flagship program. We have our hands in a couple different products that we're working on, but really what we're trying to do with Get Solar is make a streamlined opportunity for municipalities, nonprofits, businesses, pretty much everybody outside of residential customers, for which there are actually quite a few resources right now. We're trying to facilitate an easy transition into the solar process, from getting a high-level feasibility study to running a request for proposals, to helping those organizations map their financing. Apologies, I'm going a little faster than the slides, but yeah, I mean, and this is really, solar can be very complicated. It can be a pretty arduous process for an organization if you have limited resources. And we try to make this very simple, from, like I said, that feasibility work to really laying out a roadmap for what your organization needs to do to finance solar and how you're going to benefit from it. Well, who do we serve? As I mentioned before, pretty much everybody but residential organizations or residential customers. Businesses and nonprofits, we kind of just receive those passively through our website and through referrals. Call those our Get Solar Trailblazers. We do have some active outreach programming for businesses and nonprofits in communities that we call the Get Solar Communities program, where we're working with civic leaders to help map their community solar potential and do outreach. And I'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. Municipalities, we do receive these passively as well into our queue, but we've also done some active programming here. There's a nonprofit organization, Connect, the Congress of Neighboring Communities, that helps the municipalities in and around Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Metro, do some group consensus modeling and thinking in this space, helping these smaller communities really move along and benefit from the best practices in a variety of ways. And recently, we invigorated this program for solar opportunities. So we have 12 municipalities and a water authority moving through that right now. And we will certainly have some more programming like that in the future. And we, of course, will work with any municipality in the state that is interested in pursuing solar, just sort of, individually. We do some work with school districts. With another partnership program I have a slide on, Generation 180 is the nonprofit that does the outreach. They're very good at communicating with schools and helping them understand how to speak about solar internally. And we'll do that technical support, providing that feasibility work and analyzing financing. And we're really trying to expand and make sure that we do reach everybody. We have a agri-solar, Get Solar Farms program, extant. We're working on launching that maybe the end of the year, and a faith communities program, working with some partner organizations. The faith communities have a desire to go solar. They have a challenging path. They're not really eligible for a lot of grant money, certainly not government grants. And when they do spend money on their utility bills, that does impact their congregation. So we're really trying to help them alleviate that pain point, and through aggregating their that effort together. And as I mentioned before, the collaboration with Generation 180 is really exciting because schools are another organization that have a very long tooth decision process, and they have a lot of variables to factor in. And if we can facilitate that, make it easy, and provide opportunity for a competitive, unbiased bid, and look at the financing that's available to schools, that really can smoothen out that process. So for folks that are on the call that may have a connection to their school district, or that maybe believe their school district would benefit from this, there are actually quite a lot of schools in Pennsylvania have gone solar, and we had about 30 schools so far in our queue that are exploring it. And you'll see in some of my slides forthcoming, we've gone pretty far with some of them, to the point where we're trying to select out which solar proposal they're going to move forward with. Matt mentioned some of the reasons up top, but it's a great time to go solar. I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more about this with the other presenters, but utility costs have risen dramatically. That's across pretty much every market in the state. There's some compression of those costs, but they're not going to land where they were 2 years ago. And the trajectory is likely that they're going to keep rising. And we'll talk a little bit about that more. But there's also really wonderful incentives right now through the Inflation Reduction Act with which Matt spoke on pretty comprehensively. There's a huge opportunity specifically for nonprofits to pursue solar in a way that they didn't have previously. And then there are some other resources regionally and statewide that can help facilitate that process a little bit more easily. As I mentioned, electricity rates are on the rise. A lot of this has to do with just our energy mix for electricity being consolidated towards one generation source over time. And not too distant future, if we keep going where we're going, 70% of our electricity will come from natural gas. And as we've experienced very recently, that is a volatile market dependent on a global market and global impacts. And so we don't have a lot of control over what happens there. And the more of our electricity is generated that way, the more we're going to feel that when it changes. So solar is a really great opportunity, both from a distributive standpoint to insulate your organization from these kind of price fluctuations, but also the more solar it goes up utility scale, the more that can impact ratepayers positively. And I won't talk too much about this. Matt covered it, but there's a 30% base tax credit and a couple of bonus riders that can increase that if you meet certain criteria. This information is still being unpacked a little bit. I mean, the legislation's there, but the rulemaking is still being developed. But we really anticipate this is going to make a huge impact on the financing of solar for most organizations. And like another tool that we've had for a while and still very effective, particularly for municipalities, if you're pursuing large solar arrays or school districts, or really any organization pursuing a fairly large solar installation, power purchase agreement. And really what this is you have a third party being brought into your arrangement with the solar developer. They're going to provide tax equity. They're going to fund this solar array and be the owner on paper. And that you're effectively leasing your property, your rooftop or your ground, for them to develop the system. And in exchange, they're going to split some of that benefit with you. Now, if you would install your own solar and pay the upfront cost, over time, that will end up being a much better investment for your organization. You'll have a much better return. But if you don't have the ability to finance the solar upfront, or would prefer not to handle the operations and maintenance or be responsible at any level for that solar over time, this is a really great tool and then can insulate your organization from those price shocks, because you're going to be on a fixed electricity rate schedule for 25, 28, 30 years. Similar to a lot of folks are familiar with the consortium energy buying or third-party suppliers. I mean, this is just fixing it on a much longer timeline with effectively today's prices. So it's a really good tool as well to finance your solar.
Hey, Leo, I just wanted to chime in real quick. I'm looking at the slides and was hoping we could jump to slide 40, which talks about Get Solar team reviewing proposals, just so we can save time and make sure that we're staying on schedule. But please continue. Yeah.
So when we go through the Get Solar process that I mentioned before, we're going to do that feasibility work. We're going to do that RFP process. And then when you do get your proposals back, and this is like an old model that we used to use, and we have a more updated system, but I'm going to be able to show you an apples to apples comparison of all the key information, the full purchase price, system size, electricity production, all of those things that are very critical to understanding the value of your solar. I mean, we'll provide that in a way that's very readable for your organization. Another really cool tool we have, the Pennsylvania Solar Corps. This is really, we use volunteers to actually go out and map your community using some free tools like PV Watts, Google Earth. They're going to look at rooftops, land, so a comprehensive look at your community and actually draw rudimentary solar designs. And then we calculate that through a spreadsheet to look at what could be the cost savings, the kind of rough sketch of the full solar value in a particular community. And this is a really great analytical tool as we both approach all these organizations to discuss moving them through the process, but also just to understand, what your community can put out there if you're looking for grant funding or looking for opportunities to understand, your renewable energy potential. Get Solar Communities. This is that program where we're going to work with your civic leaders, volunteers, members of municipality, community development organizations. We want to work together to help get solar up in your community. That can include the municipal project properties, but that also incorporates nonprofits, landowners, and businesses. You know who in your community has potential, has the interest. We know how to do the solar feasibility work, technical stuff, and that's a great relationship to build. I mentioned the Connect earlier. We've done a couple communities in the greater Pittsburgh region, and I know we have folks on the call from Indiana Borough and Indiana County that are moving through this process right now. You're relying on your social networks, and your connectivity can really bring a lot of stakeholders to the table, and then we can help them understand whether or not it makes sense for them to go solar. I mean, this can have a really huge impact on solar adoption, and the more solar that goes up, the more solar can go up. So if folks are interested, I would love to hear hear from you via email. You can get our website. This information will be there, but the applications are due June 23rd. It's not a really onerous application, but the sooner we can get you in discussion, the sooner we can get some of these other pieces in place, like the solar mapping.
All right, thanks, Leo. Appreciate that overview and description. And if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Leo to learn more about the Get Solar Communities program. At this time, we're going to transition. And if you do have any questions, I encourage everybody to put them into the chat or connect with Leo offline. But let us move on to our next presenter, Val Story from SolSmart, or I'm sorry, from the Great Plains Institute, who will be talking about SolSmart. And Val joined Great Plains Institute in April 2022, so very recently, as a senior program manager for renewable energy, and brings 20 years of experience in the clean energy or in the national clean energy policy and natural resource management space. And she's worked as a project developer at the Clean Energy States Alliance for over a decade, where she developed and managed building electrification project, as well as led its offshore wind policy work. So Val's got a great wealth of experience, is going to share more about the SolSmart program, and I will pass it off to you, Val.
Thanks, Matt. And I am joined by my colleague, Sydney Tursky. As Matt said, we're here from the Great Plains Institute, which is a national nonprofit working broadly to decarbonize the energy system. And we do so through 5 programmatic areas. Sydney and I sit on the renewable energy team. We also have a carbon management programmatic area. We also work on transportation and transportation fuels. We have a community engagement team, and we have an energy systems team, which works broadly on climate planning and on transmission and interconnection and wholesale market issues. But today we are here to talk about SolSmart. SolSmart is a national program funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. It's led by 2 organizations, ICMA, the International City Management Association, and IREC, the International Renewable Energy, might be Council. And SolSmart is a platform that helps your community be solar ready. It's a designation process. You work through various criteria to achieve up to 4 different levels of designation. Sydney's going to walk you through the different pathways and the criteria, and then I'm going to jump back in and talk to you specifically about criteria that address community solar and large-scale solar. As I understand, Pennsylvania may be considering legislation for enabling community or shared solar. So let me pass it over to Sydney to walk us through the first few slides.
Sure. Thank you, Val. Yes, I'm Sydney Tursky. I'm a program associate here at GPI. And today we're just going to talk about what SolSmart is, what the process is towards designation. And then, as Val said, she'll dig more into how this relates to community and large scale solar. And this is just an acknowledgement slide we have to put in. This project is funded by the Department of Energy, but they don't take any legal liability for what we're about to say. So we can move past that. So this question of what is SolSmart, I'll have you move to the next slide. Thank you so much. So SolSmart is a national designation and technical assistance program. The goal is to help communities become solar ready. So having a SolSmart designation at the bronze, silver, gold, or platinum level just says that a community has addressed local barriers to solar energy deployment and they are ready to foster the growth of local solar markets. It shows that a community has transparent and streamlined permitting and planning processes. So the SolSmart designation criteria, which is criteria are kind of the action steps you take to get SolSmart designated. Those are built around nationally recognized best practices. There's a very clear process to SolSmart designation. There's templates, there's a program guide. You have a TA provider walking you through the whole process for your community. And those criteria are determined by an advisory committee of experts, and they are frequently updated so that they are reflecting changes in the solar market, which we all know renewable energy is changing all the time. So once you decide you want to go for SolSmart designation, which don't worry, I'm going to backtrack and talk a little bit more about that in a moment. You will have free technical assistance to help you get there. There will be a technical advisor assigned to you and your community that helps you figure out what the best steps are for you. It does not cost anything, just a little bit of staff time on your part. And SolSmart is committed to meeting the Justice 40 program guidelines. And yeah, I think that's all I'll say for this slide in the sake of time. So I'm talking about SolSmart designation, and I'm also talking about permitting and zoning. If your community, be it a county or a city or a town or whatever, does not have control over permitting, planning, or zoning, that is not a problem. There are multiple pathways to designation because the SolSmart program recognizes that across the United States, there's a lot of different ways that jurisdiction over permitting, planning, and zoning are handled. So there's a standard pathway if you do have control over those things. If you don't, you can take the modified pathway. And there's also a pathway for regional organizations that might be like a development commission who wants to get SolSmart certified. So there's a way there no matter what your situation is. I've been saying designation, and again, those levels are bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. For each level, there's a certain number of points you have to achieve to get that certification, and they build on each other. So to get silver, you have to have achieved bronze. To get platinum, you have to have achieved bronze, silver, and gold. Platinum's the newest one, and I don't think we have any platinum communities yet, but here's hoping. As you can see, they do just kind of increase in difficulty. Bronze, you need 60 points. Platinum, you need 350. And for each designation level, there are some required action steps you have to take just to prove that you've met the correct standards, and those are called prerequisites. Perfect. So I'm going to talk about this table on the left first with the colors. And that's kind of what you just saw before, that each designation level requires a different number of points and has specific prerequisites. And those do kind of increase in complexity as you go on. So for bronze, one of the prerequisites is just a solar statement that says your community is committed to working on SoulSmart and achieving designation. For platinum, one of the prereqs is having instant permitting. So once perhaps a resident submits a permit for solar, it's through an app or a website, it's approved immediately, which is why platinum is a little bit harder to get. And I will just back up 1 second, back to that white table that's on the right. There are 5 criteria categories, and they are permitting and inspection, planning and zoning, governmental operations, community engagement, and market development. There's a different number of criteria in each one. Outside of a few restrictions within the bronze category, you do kind of get to pick and choose. So you can work with a technical advisor to figure out which action steps make the most sense for your community to meet the correct point value and also achieve what you want for your residents. And from here, I will turn it over to Val to dig deeper into community and large-scale solar.
Thank you. In fact, I want to go back one slide for another minute. Hopefully the designation levels and the pathways all make sense and align with gaining sustainable Pittsburgh designation as well. I wanted to mention that over the last year, the Department of Energy and its partners, such as GPI, we work to update the criteria, create new criteria, and create that new designation level platinum. And the changes that we made were really to focus on equity, making sure there was an equity component to all the categories and to many of the criteria within those categories. We also put a focus on finance for low to moderate income customers. We reduce the training time. A lot of the criteria, for example, said if you choose to do fire and safety inspection training for staff, it had to occur every 5 years. Now it must reoccur every 2 to 3 years, depending on the criteria. So those are some of the changes that were made in the last year. I also wanted to talk about the categories. Permitting and inspection and planning and zoning are the 2 categories that have the most prerequisites within them. Some of the other levels, for example, gold, silver, there's a community engagement prerequisite, and in platinum, there is a governmental operations prerequisite. Most of the criteria in permitting and inspection are working to ensure that there are clear permitting and inspection procedures. In planning and zoning, the criteria ensure that the community is planning has a clear energy vision, and that zoning codes are clear and transparent. Governmental operations, as it sounds, that's the steps the local government is taking itself to install solar, whether that's installing PV on the roof of your town hall, for example, is a criteria option. Community engagement is outreach to community, and market development is, again, as it sounds, market development. What is your community doing? You can choose from a menu to develop the local solar market. So for example, running a community solarized bulk purchasing campaign is an example of the criteria there. But what I really wanted to talk about, next slide, and I'm going to try to breeze through these. These slides are quite wordy because I wanted you to be able to, this presentations being recorded, the slides will be available, so you can go back through them. I won't talk through all these words on the screen, but I did want to point out that there are SoulSmart criteria for community solar and for large scale solar. Most of the criteria and the pathways are for residential scale, but there are community solar, shared solar criteria, and we'll look at the large scale criteria next. The ones I really wanted to focus on here are market development criteria 4 and 5, which a community can gain points for example, supporting a community solar program, and for defining and implementing a pathway specifically for those LMI customers, those low to moderate income residents, to participate in a shared solar program. And by community solar and shared solar, sorry, I didn't mention this earlier, we're talking about a small solar installation offsite to which a resident accesses via virtual metering, and then you get a credit on your utility bill for the shared solar. Next slide. We included a link to the SolSmart guide in one of the earlier slides, and the SolSmart guide is a fabulous resource. And within the SolSmart guide, by criteria, there are examples of how communities have implemented that criteria, and there are also resources for more information. So what I did is I went through the the SolSmart program guide and pulled out resources for community solar. And I wanted to point out a few that are on this screen. That first bullet is a guide, a toolkit for community solar that SolSmart, the program, developed itself. So that's sort of a how-to toolkit, how to get from A to Z. The other ones that I wanted to point out are let me see, the third report, the Solar with Justice report by the Clean Energy States Alliance. And that report there has recommendations for increasing solar deployment that results in significant economic equity and health improvements. And it clarifies between community solar, shared solar, and locally controlled shared solar. And the difference there is the engagement of the local community in developing the project and the benefits that accrue to the community that is hosting or has developed that solar. Another guide that I really liked is this, actually the fourth and fifth bullet. I believe those are both by NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab. That first one, designing and implementing community solar programs for LMI customers, looks at how programs can provide subsidies to LMI community solar subscribers, how to remove barriers and upfront costs to ensure that the community solar provides immediate savings to LMI customers. And then that last one, the equitable equitable access to community solar, that program design guidebook walks you through how some states have adopted policy mandates for community solar projects with certain requirements for equitable participation. For example, in Colorado community solar gardens require that 5% of the capacity of that community solar garden accrues to LMI customers. Next slide. I know we're running out of time here. Maybe what I will do is just let you know that there are SolSmart criteria that address utility scale solar. Most of them are focused on looking at your ordinances and creating a pathway for large scale solar. I'll leave it at that and go to the next slide, which again are a series. Oh, I did not include links to resources, but that program guide will link you to it. So just to recap, these are the steps if you're interested in becoming a SolSmart designated community. Of course, you can reach out to Sydney and me. Our contact info is on the slide deck, but you can also go to solsmart.org to learn more, read the program guide, which is step 2. And then the very first step is to work with us at GPI to complete what is called the solar statement, which is just your community's dedication to become SolSmart designated. And once we've completed that solar statement, then we set you up with a technical assistance provider who walks you through the rest of the way to designation. That is all. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you so much. And I appreciate, and I know that we're really, really running close on time, and appreciate everybody's contributions. I'm going to stop sharing and ask that all of our presenters come on screen to at least be acknowledged for their participation. And apologies if it felt a little rushed there at the end. But lots of really great information, lots of resources that are available. And I encourage everybody to reach out, regardless if you have questions. If you're interested in exploring these topics in more depth, reach out to us here at Sustainable Pittsburgh. If you're at the very high level trying to figure it out and understand where things are, but know that there are plenty of opportunities, resources that are available for local governments to advance their clean energy pathways. I want to thank Leo for providing that great overview of the Get Solar program, and let everybody know that many folks have used this program, and it's a proven program that's been successful over the years, and has really helped folks get to a place where they can actually implement solar. And that's been a great resource. And with all of the different resources that are available now, with the federal investments, the Get Solar program and the Pennsylvania Solar Center are certainly a definite resource that we need to lean on here in the region and throughout the state. And also, I want to thank Val and Sydney for their contributions. The SolSmart program for Pennsylvania is sort of, has an opportunity to really champion strong planning, strong community engagement, and meaningful technical expertise. And SolSmart provides a great platform for local governments to evaluate the administrative requirements, permitting requirements, and think of the full scope of what a local government should be doing to position its municipality or local government to advance clean energy and solar. So not time for questions now, but thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And please do reach out to us if you have any questions or would like to follow up on any of that content. So with that, thank you very much, and we'll close out today's program. Thank you all.